All right, the next part of the lesson, we're going to talk about graphing the square root equation. So before we graph, again, it's important that we do the vertex, so identify what that is. And we're actually going to make a t-chart. So my vertex is -1, -2. Okay? And again, we want to think about our domain and range for this one. So I know it doesn't ask for it, but I'm still going to list it. So the domain for this one would have to be from -1 up to positive infinity. So again, I can choose any number bigger than -1. Okay? Now, when we pick this, if we're graphing by hand, we want to pick our points so that we get a nice number to take the square root of, so we don't have to deal with the decimals. Now, if you're doing this on a computer or the graphing calculator where you can actually type in like the square root of 3, then the x's that you pick don't matter as long as they're within the domain. But if we're doing this by hand, we are going to pick our points so that we get perfect squares when we choose them. Okay? And we need at least 3 points. So again, we have our vertex point, and we have to pick numbers bigger than it. So my next point that I'm going to choose is 0. So if I substitute 0 in, 0 plus 1 is 1. Okay, so let me write this out here. So we would have 0 plus 1. So that will give us 1. The square root of 1 is 1. So 3 times 1, which is 3. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. So 1 is going to be my next answer. Now the next number that I'm going to pick is 3. Okay, so if I do that, so we would have 3 plus 1 minus 2. So 3 plus 1 is 4. So we have 3 times the square root of 4 minus 2. So again, I can take the square root of 4 nicely. So this is really 3 times 2 minus 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 2 is 4. So the way that we're going to choose our points is whatever our vertex is I'm going to add perfect squares to that number. So I'm going to take -1 and I'm going to add 1 to it, which is how I ended up with 0. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to take -1 and I'm going to add 4 to it. So -1 plus 4 is 3. And if I needed another point, my next perfect square would be 9. And again, we're adding that back to the x value of the vertex, substituting that in to get the y values. All right, so now that we have a table, let's graph. So again, if you have graph paper, I would graph this on graph paper. All right, so first point, we are going to go left 1. Oops, I gotta make my y's a little bit bigger here. So left 1 down 2. And then 0, 1. And then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And again, we can't expand past that endpoint, that vertex point. So remember, this is the vertex. Okay, because we don't have anything outside of that in the domain. So this is only going to expand forever in one direction. All right, let's take a look at the next one and graph that. So again, I'm going to start with the vertex. So the vertex on this is -2, 3. And I should have started my t-chart right away. Okay, so -2, 3. So again, to pick my x values, I'm going to add 1. So -2 plus 1 is -1. Then I'm going to add 4, so -2 plus 4 is 2. And again, if we really wanted a fourth point, we would add 9. So -2 plus 9 would give us 7. And then we're just substituting them in and simplifying. So if we start with -1, so and I'm going to do a little bit of mental math as we do this. So -1 plus 2 is 1. Now we have to be a little bit careful this time because we have a negative on the outside. So when I take the square root of this number, it becomes a negative. So this will simplify to be a -1 plus 3, which is 2. All right, so next one. So I'm going to substitute in 2 this time. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So the square root of 4 is 2, and again, we have that negative, so it becomes a -2. Plus 3 is 1. And if we just do the 7, so again, 7 plus 2 is 9. So the square root of 9 is 3, and then it would become negative. So negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So again, we are specifically picking these points so that we are creating a perfect square inside that radical to make it nice and easy for us to graph. And again, if you have graph paper, I would definitely encourage you to use that. So let me get my graph going here. All right, so negative 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so first point we're going to go left 2, up 3. And then left 1, up 2. And then right 2, up 1. And 7, 0. So again, this is my endpoint, so this was our vertex. So it's going to kind of come down, curve around, and then it's going to continue forever to the right. So again, if we're thinking about our domain, the domain for this one is from negative 2 to positive infinity. And then notice this time that when we have a negative on the outside, that it's opening down. So for our y values, it's actually coming up from the negatives, so negative infinity. And then the highest y value that we will have is at the vertex here, which is at 3. So we're still using the numbers in our vertex to determine domain and range. We just have to decide if there's a reflection or not.